Hey, what is up, fellow anti-netters and my subscribers of the Scott Shepherd letter? And of course, hello to you too, my freebie-seeking Zettelkasten YouTuber shitweasels who are looking for the latest and greatest note-taking techniques, if I can even pronounce that right, and Obsidian workflows, and what's better, LogSeq or Tana Inc.? Well, guess what? Hello to you too, fellow shitweasels. And here's what I want to share with you today is I'm actually kind of procrastinating right now. See, right now I'm working on issue number 11 of the Scott Shepherd letter. And like part of my whole process is like printing it out and going through the newsletter in physical form because I'm sending it in physical form to everyone's doorsteps. And I write out by hand, um, you know, basically this entire thing. Then I type it out and then I go through it in redline format. And so I was actually just procrastinating right now and I was going through I'm going to sit down and walk you through this. I was going through Niklas Luhmann, who is the originator, the one to put his stamp on what I believe to be the true Zettelkasten, the anti-net Zettelkasten, and that is the physical form Zettelkasten. Anyway, I was going through Niklas Luhmann's actual work, his 30-year theory of society. Actually, I'm going to swing over here. I'm going to show you this part too. He's got two parts, two volumes of this thing, and this is his like entire body of work that he worked for 30 years on. And what's crazy is a third of the book, or at least I don't know, like maybe a fifth of the book, is all like freaking notes, reference notes. Okay, and that is notes that were really derived from all of his readings over 30 years, and then he compiled them into his Zettelkasten, and he used it to kind of beef up his ideas, interlink the ideas, and come up and evolve and develop his ideas. And I talk about this a lot in my book, Anti-Net Zettelkasten, about the long-term development and short-term development of thoughts. Someone wrote about that in the comments section. But anyway, here's what I wanted to show you. Okay, so I was going through his perennial work, his perennial book here, and I'm going to show you this. Oh shit! Almost dropped this frickin' tripod and camera. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I was going through this section here. Let's see. All right, there we go. That's a little bit more stable. Okay. Anyway, let me show you what I was looking at. I was looking at this page. I'm going to zoom in here, see if we can find it. He's talking about like the concept of international systems versus international relations. Like political scientists too generally speak only of international relations or the international system, thus focusing primarily on the nation state. If they exceptionally refer to world society, they mean a system that is differentiated segmentarily into nation states, not functionally differentiated into various functional systems. Now, I'm not going to break down every single component of this. He kind of, reading Luhmann is kind of fun because you have to actually stop and pause at every single sentence and deconstruct it and figure out what the hell he's even talking about. I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do, I'm going to show you. So he has this footnote on 218. It's his 218th reference, and this is in chapter 1 still. And so when you navigate over to the back of the book and you see notes on chapter 1, you'll find that he has this entry here, and it says Kurt Tudica. You guys know, if you've watched me, I'm absolute horse shit at pronunciation, so sorry, shit weasels. Then he talks about this reference, this book right here. And, he talks about, to see this piece of work, this Unbegriff und Phantom, and, 1989 is when it was published. See specifically pages 503 to 508. And then he comments, then he writes explicitly, directly in here. For example, specifically defends the concept of the international system against the newly fashionable concept of world society. However, this argument his arguments are unconvincing. And see, he goes on and he like further develops his thought. Now, here's the thing. You would think that, maybe this entire thing was, what he did was he went through the workflow and he created a bib card. Luhmann created a bib card, and then he, took little notes, and then he wrote like a main card, in his own Zettelkasten, right? That's what you're taught. You're taught all these stupid freaking rules in Zettelkasten, Reddit, and the forums, and by Zonke Arens, and you're led to believe that he had this insane master plan, master system, and I've essentially elaborated on it and explained like what that actually looks like in theory, right? Or in not even in theory, in practice, versus Zonke Arens talks about like, oh, here's like all these invented terms like literature notes and reference notes and all that stuff, and he doesn't actually describe it. Well, I've described it, but I'm going to go a little bit further and show you actually what this looks like. So as you recall, in this reference that I just pulled up, he references on this page, right here, that footnote. And then in that footnote, if we can find it, let's see, it's 218. So his footnote 218. So we're going to go back and find that. Okay, here it is. It's Kurt Tudika, right? Okay, so now what I thought we would find is if I navigate over to Kurt Tudika in the Luhmann archive, which we then find his, guess what? His bib card, and here it is, okay? So look at, and here's what it says here. I'm gonna move this up so that you can actually see this. Okay, it says, let's see if we can zoom in. It says, it references that und phantom, the page is 503, as you can see, to 508, and it talks about it. Now here's the interesting part. You would expect that on the reverse side, like this is where you get to the reverse side, you would find some, bib notes like we've been taught, like, Zonke Arens talks about, like Luhmann always did. But what you do not find is that. And you know why? It's because he went straight from reading this to actually writing and recording in the footnote of this book, of that book, his thoughts and reflections, okay? And here's what this teaches us. So, and we know this to be true because if we look at the other cards here, we can see, on the very previous card, this Tuck bib card, okay, 1979, talking about rights. On the back of that card, which we get to, we can see all of his bib notes, the page numbers and all of the thoughts that he has on it. And good, that's great, that's fine. But he doesn't always do this, and that's what kind of Zonke Arens leads you to believe. So, it's How to Take Smart Notes is the title of Zonke Arens' book, and everyone's freaking obsessed with that. All of the Obsidian Bubble Graph boys and productivity junkies and workflow warriors are all obsessed with that horse crap, right? But here's the actual thing that Luhmann did. What's more interesting, and I'll actually show you on Luhmann's page, you can find this. In Luhmann's estate, I'll just actually reverse this around. I'll just show you this. So in Luhmann's estate, what we can see here is actually more interesting. So instead of he had 90,000, cards in his own Zettelkasten. But what's more intriguing and interesting, and here's just don't judge my messy floor, but these are all of my issues and stuff of my Scott Shepard letter. Here's all essentially that's a guide that I'm going to be giving away at some point. But here's all my manuscripts and all of my edits and everything like that. Well, that's a lot, right? With Luhmann, we found that, once he passed away, there was 3,900 manuscripts, okay? And so I'm going to show you what they look like. And this is the most interesting thing. So Luhmann, instead of just farting around all day, creating freaking notes, what he actually spent a lot of his time doing was doing just this. Here's some of Luhmann's manuscripts, and I want to show you how these work. So look at this. He's basically wrote out the first draft of his manuscript, and then he creates little notes. He put this little, if you can zoom in, I'll show you this. Look at that little entry, and then it just says 2A. So what do you think he's going to do here? Well, he's talking about something. I can't frickin' read German, sorry. Some postmodern, something like that. And then he inserts this 2A thing. Well, what that means is on the very next page in his manuscript, he creates this page, you see that right there, 2A, and then he inserts this own idea. And he started doing this later on in his life because, his overall goal and what the Zettelkasten was to him, it wasn't a note-taking system, it was a composition system of actually writing. It was essentially a writing system. And that's, I think, the main thing that I think a lot of people are missing. And, this is what I've freaking have been in the background quietly writing every single month and producing a physical monthly newsletter. I'm going to turn this around so you can see me. So, okay, yeah, get this going, whatever. What I've been doing for the past year is writing a physical monthly newsletter every single month and just turning into a writing machine. My focus has gone to that. Whereas I haven't really, like for longer term projects like books and stuff, I will use my Zettelkasten like for this, where I don't know really where the book is going to go, and I'll write it in this form. But most of the time I've been writing like all year on these legal pads, these yellow legal pads. And I talk about this in issue number 4 of the Scott Shepard letter, and then converting this to manuscript form like this and just writing, just like Luhmann kind of has transitioned to in his in his time in life. And that's, we're talking 3,900 manuscripts, and inserting footnotes in here. And what's interesting is I think Luhmann's notebox is like the thing that gets all of the attention, all of the press, and all of that, right? But the more interesting thing is looking at his writing process and going through that. And so that's something I want you to keep in mind. It's all about writing. It's all about, the big takeaway here. I'm going to zoom this around. The big takeaway, I think something that you can apply to your own life, is pick a project, even if it's just one paper, one like essay, something, okay? Pick a project and work on that, like with a single focus on working on that. That is going to do you like wonders, 10 times more than freaking figuring out how to use Obsidian, how to use Zettelkasten, how to use anything, and just focus on producing and focus on writing. Now, of course, the Zettelkasten, the true Zettelkasten, the Antinet, is good for long-term development, big projects, books, and it's way better than Ryan Holiday's system. Someone asked me about this recently. Ryan Holiday's system is categorically based, so that like he talks about this. Once he like writes a book, let's say it's not numbered, like he'll like create like a book that's in one cabinet, and then it just lives in that cabinet. With the Zettelkasten, every single thought is linked, such that let's say you write a book over here in this section or something, it can then interlink and start developing and using and writing material in this section right here. So it's all interlinked. That's one of the benefits of actually learning a Zettelkasten, the true Zettelkasten, the Antinet Zettelkasten, especially when you get into the bigger types of knowledge output like books, okay? But otherwise, for just writing, essentially all you need to do is focus on writing, marking up. I talk about this in issue number 4 of the Scott Shepard letter, and just producing output. Now, why would you even want to do this? Why would you even want to write? Why would you even want to produce? Well, here's why. It's because we live in an age of all these FAP GPT dorks that are just like farting around trying to figure out how to get Chat GPT to do everything for them so that they can be lazy and not produce actually any original content, anything of creative value. They're basically trying to take all these shortcuts, which gives you a leg up. It gives you a huge advantage because there's a small group of people, and I'm one of them. I want to pull up my Stripe account right now and just show you. But basically, I sent out an email about this last week. I'm pulling in about $59,000 every 90 days from writing by frickin' hand, from reading, nerding out all day, and writing. And there's a small group of us out there, and it's going to be bigger. Like, here's my frickin' new hat, Right to Freedom. I'm going to be teaching people, showing people how to actually do this so that you can be an independent writer, creator, thinker, whatever. And I talk about all of the principles on how to do this in the Scott Shepard letter. So if you haven't, check it out. It's a physical monthly newsletter I send out every single month, and it lands on your doorstep. So anyway, I'm not going to shill anymore. You guys already know this. You can find the links below in the description. But this is something I want to share with you and show you is, Zettelkasten isn't a note-taking system. It's a writing system. And so what I recommend you do is just search like Niklas Luhmann's online archive, and then translate it. You can translate it into English. In Chrome, you just right-click and then click Translate to English. And then if you go to his estate or the online holdings, down here, you click manuscript search, and then you can go through just all of his written manuscripts and see how he actually produced and created material. I guess this one's not available right now, but there's a lot of them that are here, and they are absolutely fascinating to go through. I don't know, that one's not there either. All right, let's see what this one is. See, just so amazing. This is just more amazing, and it gets zero credit than his Zettelkasten in and of itself. This shows you actually how he produced writing, and a lot of people did they just completely forget that, you know, what Luhmann was in the business of was writing, not just farting around and creating notes all day. So that's it. Hope that gives you some ideas. And always remember to stay crispy, my friend. Peace.